All right, today we're going to tackle a true classic from game theory, the prisoner's dilemma. And trust me, it's this super simple setup, but it reveals some surprisingly deep truths about trust, betrayal, and, well, what it means to be human.
Okay, so picture this. You and a partner in crime. You've just been nabbed. The police, they don't waste any time. They split you up, put you in separate interrogation rooms. No talking, no secret signals. You have absolutely no idea what your partner is thinking, or, more importantly, what they're about to say.
And then, the cops slide a deal across the table. But here's the catch. It's not just for you. They're making the exact same offer to your partner in the next room. The choice you make and the choice they make is going to decide everything for both of you. So, what's your move?
All right, so let's break down the options here. If you both stay silent, you cooperate, honor among thieves and all that, you both get off light. Just 6 months. Easy. But if you testify against your partner and they keep their mouth shut, you walk free and they get totally slammed with 10 years. Now, if they testify and you stay silent, it's the other way around. And what if you both betray each other? Well, you both go down for 5 years.
So that's it. That's the classic criminal's choice. You've got to make a decision, and you know your partner is sweating it out in the next room facing the exact same dilemma, and you can't coordinate.
Now, your gut, your conscience, might be screaming at you to trust your partner, right? To stay silent and aim for that sweet 6-month sentence. But, game theory, it has a different take, a cold, rational one. And that brings us to our next point, the rational betrayal.
Okay, so just look at this from a purely selfish point of view, right? Let's say your partner stays silent. What's your best move? Testify. Going free is way better than doing 6 months. Okay, now let's say your partner betrays you. What's your best move now? It's still to testify. Yeah, 5 years stinks, but it's a heck of a lot better than 10. See, no matter what your partner does, you're always personally better off if you testify.
This exact outcome has a name. It's called a Nash equilibrium, after the brilliant mathematician John Nash. It's basically that point in a game where you make your best possible move, assuming the other person is also making their best possible move. And in the classic prisoner's dilemma, that logical endpoint, that equilibrium, is always to betrayed. But what happens if we mess with the rules just a little bit? What if that cold, hard logic of betrayal doesn't quite hold up anymore?
So just imagine for a second that the punishments get shuffled around. Let's say being the one person who stays silent is no longer the absolute worst-case scenario. Suddenly, the punishment for both of you betraying each other is now the thing you want to avoid at all costs.
And when that happens, the whole game is shattered. That Nash equilibrium, it just breaks down. There's no longer one single best move. It's not about cold, hard logic anymore. It becomes this massive psychological puzzle that all boils down to one simple but really powerful question. Do you trust your partner?
Okay, so that's all the theory. But how do actual people act when you put them in this spot? Well, researchers ran a bunch of surveys to find out, and believe me, the results are fascinating. First up, they hit 226 people with the classic scenario. You're a bank robber. You've been arrested. You know the drill. Do you testify or do you stay silent?
And get this, the results are pretty surprising. Only about 54% made the so-called rational choice to testify. That means a whopping 46% of people chose to remain silent, completely defying that cold logic. And when they were asked why, they said things like they'd feel guilty or their conscience wouldn't let them, or they just wanted to trust their partner.
Okay, next up, they shifted gears to a huge, real-world political dilemma. You're a world leader. Do you sign a global climate treaty? The quote-unquote rational choice for your own country's economy is not to sign, especially if you think other countries might not. It's another perfect Nash equilibrium setup.
But look at this. The results completely flipped. I mean, nearly 2/3 of people said, yep, sign the treaty. They chose to prioritize the good of the entire planet over the individual economic gain for their own country. They just flat out rejected the rational choice.
And now for the last survey. This is that shattered game scenario we talked about, where there's no easy answer. You're a baseball player. Do you take performance-enhancing drugs? The worst possible outcome here is if everyone does it, right? Nobody gets an edge, and everyone suffers the health problems.
The response here was just overwhelming. Over 84% said no way they wouldn't use them, mostly because of the health risks. But what's kind of wild is that the 15.9% who said they would Well, that number is shockingly close to the 13.9% of actual Major League Baseball players who tested positive back in 2003. Wow.
Okay, so to really bring this to life and move it from just a hypothetical, researchers did something kind of fun. They ran an in-person experiment using, wait for it, silly bands as the prize. Yep, they got pairs of people to actually play the game, choosing to cooperate or defect to see who could get the most bracelets.
And when they crunch the numbers, well, the payouts don't lie. In both versions of the game, the classic one and the one with the changed rules, the defectors, the betrayers, they walked away with way more silly bands. On average, they got almost double what the cooperators did. Bottom line, betrayal paid off. Big time.
And all of this brings us to one final, really powerful question. In a world that's clearly full of people who trust and people who betray, who actually comes out on top in the end?
So, when the researchers looked at all the answers across all three of those different surveys, they found something pretty profound. A full third of the people they surveyed were what they called always joiners. They chose the trusting cooperative option every single time. And the always defectors, the ones who were just ruthless in every scenario, they were a tiny fraction, only about 6.6% of the group.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. The irony of this apparent compassion is that the few participants who were willing to defect received disproportionate benefits for doing so. So what does that say about our world? A world that seems to run on the trust of the many, but so often rewards the betrayal of the few.